Good afternoon, or good morning, depending on what time zone you're in. I'm glad you're joining us for the very last 2013 show webinar. And this perhaps may be among the most important because it'll give you the opportunity to continue to get value out of the show. As you can see, we want you to get the most from your show experience. I'm Perry Reynolds with IHA, and I'm here with Debbie Teske.
Good morning.
And we're going to go through for you in the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to go through with you your access to the buyer lists and the media list. And I'll talk a little bit about the buyers list, and Debbie will talk to you about the media list. You are free to, in fact, we encourage you to ask questions at any time during this webinar. We hope that we will provoke a few questions on your behalf, and we hope we'll answer a few questions along the way as well. So many of you already have done this, but if you haven't, this is the link at which you download both the buyer list, U.S. and non-U.S., as well as the media list. And when you arrive there, this blurry picture is the page that you'll be looking at when you get there. As you can see from the two boxes in the middle of the screen, you do need a username and password. What you will need is your company ID number and your 2014 seniority number. You received both of them with the original buyer list download email, which we sent several weeks ago. Some of you, if you don't know what that is, you can contact Dawn Whitman here at IHA, and her email address is there on the screen. After you download the list, you have the opportunity, since they are in Excel, you have the opportunity to manage those lists in any way that answer the needs of your business. There are columns for retail class of trade. There are columns for job function. There are columns for products of interest. In the retail class of trade area, you'll find these names, these category names listed. In many of these lists, they are self-described when the buyers register. If for some reason the buyer lists multiple buyers list multiple different chains, we rationalize that at registration time. Some of the little tricks of it, though, might be of interest to you. For instance, under department store, you will find Macy's, but under internet, you'll find Macy's.com. So there are things for you to look at, to consider when you select the retail channel or class of trade that you wish to reach. Each of these was represented at the show. We count all but the last two as buyers, retail buyers. The last two, though, may be of interest to you as well. Wholesaler distributors, importer exporters may have stopped by your booth. The entire reason for this for us making this list available to you, actually part of it's selfish. We want you to help us market the value of the show to those folks. But at the same time, we also want you to be able to follow up on any leads that you got at the show, as well as to go find folks that you invited to your booth, or maybe you didn't even invite them, and to reconnect with them. In the first number of years that we were doing marketing for the show, we would buy lists from third-party list providers until we figured out that the list that we get from registration is probably the best list available. And as you know, you get it for free. So these are the classes of retail trade that you can reach out to. We'll talk a little bit more about how to create that list in a second. These are the job functions that are listed that we give them the choice of signing up for when they show up. Buyer, buying assistant, merchandise manager, corporate executive, owner. Owner becomes important, particularly if you're reaching out to independent retailers. You could create a custom list of independent retailer store owners and market only to them. that was the largest classification, that is to say independent retail stores, was the largest classification registered for the show. Many of them were on the floor, but you may not have got a chance to meet them all. And the owner, of course, is the best person to reach out to in that group. In addition, we asked them to tell us about products of interest. What products are you interested in buying at this, or shopping for at the show? And these are the categories that we offer for them. We hope that most of these come approximately close to the kinds of products that you offered at the show. You very much would want to take a look at tangential categories to yours as well. We find that buyers don't always put down every category, but if you're selling household electrics, for instance, or you're looking for buyers who are there to buy household electrics, you might want to look at the other two electrics categories just to make sure, because you may find one of your buyers or one of your targets in that category. In addition, we list tabletop and china, silver, and crystal separately. You may very well want to check both of those together for your list. They can be very helpful. Home decor might be a category you'd reach out to in addition to tabletop as well. So there are a number of opportunities to combine some of these categories. And of course, you'll find many buyers selected them both. But if you know how to sort in Excel, I think you'll find that some of these folks managed multiple categories, or managed to check multiple categories when they checked in, when they registered for the show. So now to the interesting part. If you are talented in Excel, and perhaps even if you're not, and I'm not particularly talented, you will find that sorting these folks out is fairly simple. You can select the entire list by clicking on the blank box in the upper left-hand corner of the list, and then select through your sortation tools, select the categories you'd like to sort against. You can sort them in order. You can create a custom list across multiple categories. And I would suggest that you may want to target your list as a consequence. For instance, if you want to say a slightly different thing to owners of kitchenware stores than you're saying to mass merchants or supermarkets, you may want to create separate lists for them and use those lists strictly to speak to the people that own kitchenware stores. In addition, and I highly recommend that you do this, because not, as I mentioned earlier, not all buyers list every category that they're interested in buying, and you may want to scan that list for other notables. The list is in alpha order by company. When you get it, you may want to just check through and see if the buyer you're looking for from Macy's, the buyer you're looking for from Kohl's, or the buyer you're looking for from Fab.com or from Rue La La may not have actually checked the category you're looking for. So you may want very much, you may want to sort of just scan the rest of the list to see if you picked everybody up. One other trick that you might want to use in sorting the list, particularly if it's a custom sort for yourself, is to create a new column in the far left of the spreadsheet once you drop it down. And in the ones that you want to go through, now you're going to be looking at 14,000 names, but you may want to put an X or a check mark or something in that left-hand column, and then when you're done going through the entire list, you can sort them to the top so that you can create a list of those that we didn't have a marker for, but that you may want to have in a separate list. Perhaps it's senior buyers or divisional merchandise managers, but not everyone, people that you're looking for yourself. I would encourage you to use this list over and over and over again. If you've exhibited in multiple shows, I would encourage you to build a longer-term database. Yes, buyers do change, not in all categories. I would say that particularly in independent retailers, you might find that the list is valuable for you year after year after year, and the more you build it, the more valuable it is for you. We have our list here. back to 1999 that we used to market for the show. And as you can guess, that list is kind of long. We have roughly 40,000 people on that list. And we use it, again, to market for the show, but you will want to use it, particularly depending on the category you're looking for. You may want to use multiple years as well. So if you have that other Excel file tucked away someplace, you might want to just merge those two files together and create an even longer list. You will have some duplicates. If you're really good at Excel, you'll figure out a way to dump the duplicates out. I'm not that good, but we do have folks here who are. But I would strongly encourage you to not just use the sortation tool, but again, to put some individual intelligence or some visual intelligence to the list, and then go back through and add some of those folks back to your list. We do the best that we can with some of these retail classes of trade and job functions in terms of editing them. We do not edit products of interest at all. If they tell us, whatever they tell us in product of interest is exactly what they told us. In retail class of trade, I mentioned we sometimes do some rationalizing. If the gift buyer for a retailer who's not really a gift retailer says that they're in the gift channel, we change them to whatever channel is native for that retailer. In addition, in the job function, if somebody says that they're a buyer, but we also notice that in their free text, the free text column where they get to say what their title is, if they say they're an owner, we often will change it. But you also may want to look through that free text column as well to see if you can find people who might be of interest to you, because if they're given the opportunity to tell us what their title is, as well as to check the job function box. So there are a number of different ways to use this list. But I encourage you, again, it's long, but I would encourage you to spend as much time as you possibly can familiarizing yourself with the list. And again, if they stopped at your booth, you may have already captured their information. Your information is probably fresher than this list because this is as of the date of registration. So you may want to go back and check the business cards you picked up at the show or the list you made from those business cards as well to make sure that there weren't any updates, phone number changes, mail stop changes, whatever that was, between the time they registered, because they start registering as early as actually the show before. So again, you might want to spend a little time with that. One question that we get all the time is why no emails? And I want to spend a little time talking about this. As you know, in Housewares Connect 365, you do have the opportunity to email to the buyer's briefcase on Housewares Connect 365, not directly to their email. We continuously ask our retail advisory groups and retailers we go to visit, and we go visit many, about sharing their email address. And the day may come yet in which they feel comfortable sharing their email address. But more often than not, we have people who tell us that if we share their email, they're likely not to give it to us when they register because they don't want to be bombarded with extraneous emails. So if you picked up a business card at the show, you've got an email address, and I would encourage you to use that email address. There are two other ways, again, for the time being, we are not going to offer, we'll continue not to offer email addresses. There are two ways that we do. One is the Buyer Connect list. If you took one of the two options for Buyer Connect, that is the in-booth box in which you dip the buyer's badge and record their visit to your booth, or the hand scanner, both of which were free to the first 800 or so exhibitors that signed up for them. You already have, in one case you have a paper list, in both cases you have an email that was sent to you directly after the show, the week after the show closed, that has a list of all of the buyers that were scanned, that you scanned in your booth. I would encourage you to add that back to this list as well. And you probably have already followed up with them, what we're doing a little bit now probably with the new buyer list is a little more prospecting than you had done before. But just in case, I would add particularly the intelligence that you have from the Buyer Connect list back to the list you're going to create off of this buyer list that's available to you. In addition, if you had products in the new product showcases at the show, you received a similar email to the Buyer Connect email. In fact, if you had them both, you received them together for the names and contact information for each buyer who scanned your product in the new product showcase. I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to follow up with those people, because those are the livest leads. Both of them are the livest leads you will get. You will have gotten at the show. Again, the goal here for you and for us is to facilitate your ability to communicate with those buyers. We want you talking to them. We want them talking to you. As a not-for-profit trade association, our mission is to create connections between buyers and sellers. And we want to give you as many tools as we possibly can to create that connection. One last reminder, speaking of creating that connection, Housewares Connect 365, which is your ability to promote yourself to the entire interested housewares community, retailers, consumers, and any other folks that happen onto housewares.org, of the 650,000 individuals who go there each year, gives you an opportunity to create for yourself a listing on the site. This is the link that you go to create that listing. That listing requires the same username and password as the buyer list login. Again, if you don't have it, Dawn Whitman, DAWNWITTMANN at housewares.org would be your email to send Dawn an email, and she will send that contact or that buyer username and password information to you. But we will be reaching out to buyers over the course of the, if you will, off season, and perhaps as they get ready to go to other trade shows, both in the U.S. and abroad, they'll be looking at your listing on Housewares Connect 365. And in many cases, as we've mentioned many times before, your listing on Housewares Connect 365 will often come up on the front page of Google, sometimes even ahead of your own company listing. So it's important that you keep that up to date. I know many of you introduced new products at the show. You have the opportunity to put those products on your Housewares Connect 365 listing, and we would encourage you to do so. That listing will come down the end of the summer, but it's up there now. And if you re-upped for the show, it will stay up, and if you haven't re-upped for the show, it will come down later on in the summer. But so I encourage you to fill out your space applications, which will be coming the middle of this month, so that you can retain your Housewares Connect 365 listing. But that is, this is, I believe, the buyer list. The buyer list that we're just going over for you is probably the tool, your best tool for reaching out to those retailers year-round. And I would encourage you to use it in all of your marketing. I would encourage you to use it in all of your show preparation for next year's show. It is a great tool. It's a great tool. And again, as I mentioned before, if you have multiple years, I would encourage you to combine those years in such a way that that you have an even broader list. Many of the independent retailers tell us they'll come every other year. Many independent hardware stores come every other year. In mass merchants and department stores, many of those buyers stay around for a long time. A lot of them change over. You may have a pretty good list of them as well. But we would encourage you to retain this list and use it on a year-round basis. So I'm now going to turn it over to Debbie Teschke, who will explain to you how to do the same kinds of things with the media.
All right. The show generated 300 million consumer impressions in the news media, both before and in the weeks after and throughout this year. I will still be seeing news coverage in late summer, fall, from stories that were written either this spring right after the show and get picked up by other newspapers. And I hope that we were able to help you before the show or during the show get, be included in some of this coverage and, get your word out to the consumer about your new products. So now the news media list is going to help you after, for the rest of the year and leading up to the next show, to communicate with the media about your new products. In your show PR, you told them about the new things you had debuting at the show, that were either just out or coming out in the next couple of months. And I know many of you have new products coming out later in the year. And so you can use the news media list. You can create a media list to send and to pitch to these editors about your new products that you have coming out later in the year to help you get more feedback and more coverage with the consumer. Our news media, we had over 400 media that attended the show. And on the list, the final list, after I cleaned it up and took out some people that after the show realized that they really weren't media, they told me that they were going to be offering services free of charge, coverage free of charge to the media, and they didn't. They ended up charging them, so I just deleted them off the list. But before we go any further, let me explain how IHA looks at news media. News media credentials go to editors, writers, bloggers, internet media, broadcasters who will give you free coverage. They're not going to charge you for a video. They're not going to charge you for an article. They're not going to charge you for any type of media coverage. If someone came to your booth during the show and they were wearing a blue media badge and they offered to shoot a video, said, oh, I'll put it on my website, we'll send it out to TV stations, or they offered to write an article about you, but they were going to charge you for that coverage, that is not news media. That is a trade gust based on our criteria. And if you had someone come to your booth during the show and did that to you, please let me know, because I will go back to them and make sure that they are not news media for future shows. We will make sure that they are a trade guest so that, our exhibitors get free coverage, that they don't have to pay for their coverage. So we have 343 U.S.-based media, both consumer and trade editors, over 50 international editors, and most of the international editors are trade editors. We had a couple of what might be considered consumer, or they were non-trade in their countries, but most of them are the trade editors. We had print, broadcast, internet media, and bloggers, so we ran the gamut of media types there. And our list includes all the information that they gave us, which includes their email addresses and their phone numbers if they provided them at registration, where you don't get that on the buyer side, you do get that from the on the media side.
Do you have any advice on how to use those email addresses, whether to be sparing with them or fire away?
Well, I have had some complaints. Actually, this year before the show, some editors wanted to be taken off the media list from last year because you exhibitors are doing a great job and just flooding their inboxes with emails. I can't tell you not to do that. I think, a lot of editors want to hear from you that way. So I would definitely email or mail to the editors, because if you have print materials, a lot of editors can't take attachments in their emails. So if you want to send them a picture or a catalog, I would suggest maybe even mailing it to them versus email if you can't embed it in the message. But definitely you take advantage of those email addresses where you can. Now, in creating your follow-up list, you can sort the list by media type, either print, broadcast, internet, or blogger. And a little confession, we recently added that list to the that category to the list that we posted. So if you initially downloaded the media list back in April when you first received the email that the list was available, you may want to go, and having those classifications is important to you, then I would encourage you to go back up to the website and download the list again so you have that. If you say, I know what a print media is, like a newspaper or a magazine, broadcast would be TV or radio. Internet media is a website that's a news-generated website, and then your bloggers are the people, your mommy bloggers, your lifestyle bloggers, where they just write. They just have a blog. They don't have a news-based website. That is how we classify them. And if you feel you can tell the type of media it is by the company name, then I wouldn't worry about re-downloading the list. You can also sort it by the country. U.S.-based media do not have a country listed. That country field is blank, so you'll just have the international media with a country. And then decide which media to target, either consumer or trade. Some of you may have very good relationships currently with the trade media that cover housewares, home world business, HFN, kitchenware news, gourmet business, or gourmet retailer, the grocery publications. And so, you have those relationships, so you don't really need that information after you want to focus on the consumer. So a consumer publication is something that you would read in your everyday life. I mean, you know the names, your newspapers, the magazines, Good Housekeeping, In Style, Food and Wine, Food Network magazine, HGTV magazine, all those publications that you see on the newsstand when you go to the store. Those are the consumer publications, along with the newspapers and the radio stations and the TV stations. So decide who is important to you. Now, we have over 2,100 exhibitors, and obviously not every editor could make it to every booth. So there may have been editors that you didn't see. Some may have stopped by your booth, others may have not. So I encourage you to go through the list and pick out those magazines and newspapers or editors or blogs or that you feel are important to you, and you want to reach out and use them to create your list. Now, another opportunity for you to have some time with the media and to gather some media names, editor names, are our IHA Press Events. And we conduct 3 press events during the year in New York. We invite the consumer and the trade editors, and it's your opportunity to meet with them in a relaxed setting. Our next one is June 5th, Hot Housewares for the Holidays. And I am pleased to say that as of this morning, the event is filled. We limit it to about 40 IHA member companies. If you didn't get to sign up and you are interested in participating, send me an email. I'm creating a wait list. Sometimes I do get companies that decide they can't participate after they have signed up, and then I will fill in with my wait list. So please send me an email, and I'll keep you on that list and let you know if I have an opening. We'll have another one in the fall called Affordable Innovation, and that date is to be determined. And then next January, we'll have our 2014 show preview. And the editors that we invite, they're pretty much the New York and the East Coast regional based editors. They love these events. It's an opportunity for them to meet with you in person, to see your new products, and to get a little bit more information. It's relaxed. It's not as hectic as the trade show. It's a 4-hour event from noon to 4, and you may come away with 10 to 20 contacts with the media that you may not have had before, and maybe get a hit in Real Simple or Good Housekeeping or In Style or Ladies Home Journal or Women's Day simply by participating in this event. It has happened.
How many total editors are usually at these events, then?
We usually get about 40 to 50 editors or more. Sometimes in January we might get close to 60. And again, it's a combination of the trade magazines and the consumers. And
I think if anybody has done an event other than the ones that we run in New York, they'll find that they are very expensive, and not all the editors are interested in them, right, Deb?
Exactly. If you've been solicited by another advertising agency saying that they're having a holiday press event, or that maybe some are green, sustainable events, they market to every category across the board. So if you participate in one of those, you may be next to somebody selling automotive supplies, toys, clothing, jewelry, window treatments, everything but housewares. And our events are strictly housewares, and the editors know that. And the other events, they may say we get 200 to 300 editors. But remember, they are marketing to everybody, and not every editor may be interested in your product. So you're spending, I've seen costs anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 for these events. And you may be spending that kind of money and only seeing maybe 5 editors that are really interested in your product. So our events are much more affordable. For as low as $900, you'll have a chance to meet with these editors.
We know we've got a good thing going when the big PR firms use our events, right, Deb?
Oh, exactly. And some of you, if you have a PR agency, they may be representing you at the event. I've had, company presidents. I've had, company personnel and the PR agencies come, and we give you a table. You stand there with your products, and the media come walk around, and they'll stop by and talk with you about your new product. So it's another way, relatively, it's very cost effective to meet these people, and you'll come away with a list. I send the registration list or the attendance list about a week after the event. So once again, you'll have names and complete contact information for the people who attended and those who didn't attend.
One of the reasons that we do those events in New York is that not every one of those media folks are funded to travel to Chicago. So it does give you a sort of a dual opportunity to get to folks. And one other thing before we go to questions, if there are any, when I was talking about the buyer list, I mentioned that U.S. and non-U.S. are available. I would encourage you to look at both. You also may occasionally find some non-U.S. non-U.S. buyers in the U.S. list. For instance, Walmart often will register their non-U.S. buyers with a Bentonville address. So again, you have to be you have to mine this list, and you have to mine it carefully, particularly if you're looking for a fairly tight target. So, but again, we're happy to answer any questions here or later on, and our contact information is up on the board. Debbie, we have any questions?
A couple of questions. I answered the one. You might want to tell people that this will be available on our website.
Why don't you? Thank you. This recording of this will be available on our site for anybody else in your team that might need to be brought up to date on how to use this. And of course, as I mentioned, Debbie and I will answer any questions. Send the buyer questions my way and the media questions Debbie's way. We'd be happy to help. Any other questions?
Is there anywhere we can see the editors that are registered to come to the IHA events?
The press events? No. In the emails that I send out to the members announcing the events and my solicitation emails, I do list the major consumer organizations that have attended the last 2 events. So that's one way. We feel that the list of who attends is a benefit to those who sign up and support the events. So to get that list, you would have to participate in an IHA event.
If you are signed up for the event, you will get a list in advance of the event, and then another list at the conclusion of the event based on the fact that we'll have walk-ups at the event. But it is a benefit for those who attend. We'd be happy to answer a question about a specific editor if you're considering attending one of the events. But again, as they say in the stock market business, past performance is no indication of future performance. And we certainly can't guarantee that anyone will be there, but we have built a strong media following for these events.
She also follows up with, you said that the event was the one in June was full. If we register for that, even though it's full, will we be able to receive the list of those editors?
No. If you signed up and you're in the event, you'll get the list of the editors. If you're on the waiting list and you don't get in, no, I can't share that with you.
There is a decent chance, though, that as a waiting list person, you may get a table. So every now and then people will cancel. So as Debbie mentioned, we just filled up just right now. So if you will email Debbie and let her know that you are interested in being on the waiting list, there's a reasonable chance that you will be you could be a part of our event in New York. We look forward to seeing you there.
And someone wants more information on the fall event?
Send me an email. As I said, we don't have a date yet for it. It's either September or October. I'm waiting to hear from the hotel. All of our events are held at the Hilton, New York. So on 6th Avenue and 53rd Street. So that's where our 3 events are. I know the location. I don't know the date yet. We call it Affordable Innovation. That's pretty, I think most new products can fit into that topic, but I'm happy to talk with anyone about that. So please send me an email.
And that's all we have right now.
Okay, again, our contact information is up on the screen. We would encourage you to call us, email us at any time, and we'd be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for participating, and on to 2014.